guys, welcome to today's video. I'm the Hooded Lit, and today we're doing another video in the Mature Beginner series. I will do a playlist for that and I'll post it right here. Today we're doing Foundation Part 2. I will post the first one right here where I talk about what kind of foundation do you need. Ask the questions that you might not have thought about so that you're better prepared when you go out looking for something. I talk about shade, I talk about what kind of coverage, what kind of finish you want, etc. And I think it's a very helpful video. Today we're going to talk about application. So if you are a mature beginner, or if you're mature and you used to wear makeup and you don't anymore and now you want to get back into it, the good news is products have changed. They've gotten so much better than 15 years ago. So much better. There's also a plethora of choices, which can be overwhelming. It's good in theory, but it can be a lot. And I think that video kind of helps you a little bit with how to choose the best one and get through all these choices that you have. But let's assume that you found the perfect shade, the perfect coverage, the perfect finish, everything that you need. Now we're sitting down to the table and we're going to put some on, and we need to talk about prep. My stance on primer is I don't need it, and the reason I don't need it is because I wash my face, I put on serums, I put on essences, I put on moisturizers, and I put on sunscreen, and I feel absolutely well primed to put on my makeup after that, with the exception of, let's say I did all that and I didn't put on makeup, and 2 hours later I gotta go out and I just want to put a little something on. Then I refresh my skin with a spray. The Kosas Serum spray is great. You can also get rose water and glycerin, which everything will be posted below, but I'll be putting in pictures here really quickly. But that helps to re-moisturize my face, re-plump it up, rehydrate it, and then I give it maybe a couple of taps, and in 5 minutes I'm ready to go on with my foundation. I do find that primer can be helpful for 2 different skin conditions. I want to say type, but one of them is not a type. Oily skin, there is an abundance of primers available to you that helps to absorb your oils. And skin that has texture, there are many primers that fill out your texture so it's less visible once your foundation is on. I don't suffer from oily skin or texture, so I can't give you any recommendations on those. But I think those are the 2 groups of people or skin conditions that could benefit from a primer. So you've done your sunscreen. How quickly can you go ahead with your makeup? It depends on your sunscreen. For me, I like my sunscreen to feel set, and many of my sunscreens have the word watery in them, and those absorb super quickly. I can go on with my makeup 5 minutes later. Today I mixed 2 sunscreens. One of them had a lot of dimethicone in it, and dimethicone doesn't really set, so I wanted to give myself a half an hour. It still has a little bit of movement, but not as much as when I first put it on my face. So put on your sunscreen last and then let it set up. It could take 5 minutes, 10 minutes, half an hour before you go on with your makeup. Let's talk about tools. I have 3 tools I want to talk about, and the first is free. It's your fingers. This is my preference for applying foundation. There are times when I don't, when I do a brush, like if I have a tricky sunscreen on and I'm not sure it's going to work well with my foundation, I might do a beauty blender or a brush, but I like how the heat of your fingers and the heat from the skin on your face help to really melt the foundation into your skin, and it helps it to synchronize, and that helps it to look more natural. I personally want someone to say you have beautiful skin, not you have beautiful makeup on. 2 other things you probably want to have. This, I would say, very, very important. This is the Beauty Blender. I've tried a couple of sponges and I still think the Beauty Blender is superior. I will often put on my foundation with my fingers and then I'll go over with a Beauty Blender. I never in a million years would squeeze my foundation onto my Beauty Blender and go boop, boop, and work it all in. That's not appropriate. But putting a light base everywhere and then using this to blend everything in and make sure you don't miss spots. Beauty Blender really helps me to kind of stretch things out that I missed. And a beauty blender is sometimes my preferred way. When I do apply, not just blend in, but apply with a beauty blender, I'll put it on my hands, and then I'll pick it up with the butt, and then I'll transfer over. I will say that you use far less foundation with your fingers, and far more when you use a beauty blender for the application or a brush. I have several brushes, but I have to say that BK Beauty 101 is my favorite, and it makes it much faster. If speed is your need, a brush is going to be the way that you want to go, but you'll use twice as much product in my experience. Now, let's go ahead and put some on. Now, I'm going to go on with the Makeup Forever Reboot. It's almost gone. Thank God the sale's coming up, because I think this shade might work for me right now. And 2 pumps. This is a light medium coverage at best. And I'm choosing a light medium coverage because I want to show you an application tip. So you start in the center of the face because most women have the most redness, and that's pretty much what we want to cover up. We want to even out our skin and get rid of our redness. And I'm just working this in with my finger, kind of gingerly. I find that when I wear this, that the capillaries, the broken capillaries on my skin, I can see them. So one thing that you might want to do is wear something a little more sheer, like this, and then add. You can add foundation or you can add concealer. So I put a little bit too much on. I'm going to head and pounce this out. And I find as I get older, I really want a very little around my lips because of the lip lines. So now I've got a nice blend, and my skin tone is evened up. My redness from this side to this side, it's less so, but it's not completely gone. Now with this side, I'm probably going to have to disperse some more, but I'm going to show you how I just pick it up with a brush, and I try to get that brush coated nicely. And same thing, start in the center of the face and stamp. The reason I'm stamping is because I have skincare and sunscreen, and I don't really want to move that. And the brush is more aggressive than my fingers. The surface, here's my fingers, here's the brush. Do you know what I mean? I could swipe with my fingers, but I don't want to swipe with this. And 2 more pumps. I'm going to go back right here because I just loaded up and there's more product. And then stamp. My forehead has the least amount of redness, so I'll go there last. Now, I don't find with this particular brush that I need to go over with a beauty blender afterwards, but I do want to be careful around my eyebrows and my hairline to make sure we're in those areas very nicely. All right, I'm actually pretty fine making this my base, but for the purpose of showing you if you have other areas to cover that you want to cover more, this is how you go about it. One, I did too much with my fingers on this side, and that's not a great thing. I think it's much, much better to start with thin layers and build, and that's not what I did today, but this particular foundation is incredibly forgiving. If I want to cover more right here, my choices are concealer or more foundation. Now Beauty Blender makes a really small little sponge. Looks just like this. I think it's called a mini, and it's ideal for picking up a little bit and just getting it in certain areas. I used to also use it under my eyes. We're going to do that on this side of the face. The other thing that you can do is go on with concealer, but I do find that as you get older, using concealer on your cheeks or on your face, but especially on your cheeks, can be very aging because concealer is usually a heavier texture than your foundation, and it will look heavier. And the idea is, don't want to look makeup-y. And you just keep on adding and keep on working it in, taking the butt, and it will take some off, and that's okay. You can continue to apply and just spend a little bit of time on this. And change your direction. If you find like it's not really getting into those pores, go from a vertical to a horizontal and really work it in. If you feel that you have too much foundation on at the very end of your application, rub the hands together, get them nice and warm, and place them on your face, all over the face. And you'll find you're taking off a teeny bit of foundation, and the warmth really melts everything in, and it's a beautiful finish. Now let's go on with a little concealer on the face. This is my Lancome, and I'm just going to put it where I have some things I want to cover. Generally speaking, when you use concealer on your face, you don't want it to be the same concealer that you're using under your eyes, because most people go a little bit lighter with the color underneath their eyes, and you don't necessarily want to go lighter on your cheeks, although it's not the end of the world if you do. It helps to open up your face. I have a couple of brushes that would be appropriate to blend this in, and I can't find the other one. It's from Rougher, and yeah, I'm not sure where it is. So we're going to go in with the Hot and Flashy, and in the same manner, we're really going to be careful with how we are blending this out. So this is a little bit too light, but putting lightness on the cheekbone area, and I think a lot of women, this is where sun damage is. And then, I definitely have more coverage here, but you see, to me, when I look in the mirror, this looks more natural and this looks makeup-y. And it's about the color, not the coverage. I'm going to go in with the Beauty Blender and just take off a little bit. If you have little pinpoint things, for instance, if you've had a BBL and you have some little dark things you want to cover, the Laura Mercier product is fantastic, and just use a really small brush and be very thorough. So there we have it. I do have a desire to even up my face a little bit, so I am going to put just a touch on each side. And again, the lightest touch. I'm just using feather touches and go different directions. If you feel like it's not getting into your pores, but it's laying on top of your pores. I am going to do a video on concealer, but I definitely need some concealer to help me out here. And because I use this on my face, I'm going to go ahead and use the same one under my eyes. And now I have a blank canvas for the rest of my makeup. Generally speaking, if you're using a foundation that has lighter coverage, start with your light coverage and build, which is what I did here today. I showed you how you can build with the foundation rather than using a concealer, which can look heavier on the skin and it's a little more tricky, but I showed you how you can work that into the skin, feather strokes going different directions with your brush, your fingers, or your Beauty Blender, and keep on working it out. If you're using a foundation that has fuller coverage, your blend is even more important. You'll put it on, and I want you to blend it as much as if you're practically taking it off. Really go in with your Beauty Blender like you saw me do, but do it all over the face. And then again, if you find there's some things you want to cover, just hit those areas that you want to cover for a more natural look. I feel like the skin looks nice, it looks healthy, and it doesn't look like makeup. But now I'm going to turn off the camera and I'm going to put on some other things. We're going to talk about powder just a little bit. So I put on a little bit of blush. I used the Makeup by Mario, just a very light pale pink, and I felt I needed a little bit more color, so I took the Jones Road Balm in Tawny. So this is a little bit of a stickier consistency, and you might want to powder. My favorite powder is the By Terry powder because it does not impart color. Pounce, 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 pounce. And then if you feel like you have too much, very, very lightly. You don't want to remove any of your foundation. I feel like the skin looks like skin. It has a natural look to it. And now I can go out into the world and feel like I've made my skin look prettier than it really is, but hopefully not too makeup-y. I didn't do any powder under my eyes. I'm just going to take care of that. And you guys, that's it. This is a mature beginner starting guide. You need to experiment on your own. You need to play with a beauty blender, with a brush, with your fingers, and with your foundation. Try concealer for building. Try more of the foundation for building. It requires playing to figure out what works best for you. But these are my observations and my guidelines regarding primer to primer not, to powder or not, depending on your finish. And as you play, as you learn, you will find the perfect application for you. Here's your guideline. I really, really hope it was helpful. I'd love to hear from you down below. And that's going to wrap up today's video. Until we meet again, be safe and smart, and I'm wishing you good health.